Hello, everybody. I'm certified natural healthcare practitioner Erin Thole, and today I am talking once again to my friend Colton Thayer from Wei Labs, which is a traditional Chinese medicine company. And we work a lot together to help people with a whole slew of different health issues that they may have. And today we're going to be talking about cholesterol, what it is, what it does, the pros and cons, answering some questions there around cholesterol, because it is a big thing that a lot of people talk about. A lot of people come to us with issues with that, or they're told that they have issues with that, and they want to just kind of get a better understanding of that and get a control over that. So we're going to be really diving into cholesterol today. I do want to say first and foremost that this video is educational. So we're not here to treat, diagnose, cure, any of that stuff. So always consult with your healthcare practitioner of choice before you change anything up. So hi, Colton. Thanks for being out today.
Yeah, no problem. It's a beautiful Friday morning. Happy to talk about herbs and natural health and all that.
All the fun stuff. Awesome. So yeah, so do you want to talk a little bit about, give a little spiel on what you do, and then we'll jump into our cholesterol chat here?
Yeah, we've talked about it in other videos, but our goal is to kind of root out what's causing these conditions, right? What's the basis of it, right? Because if we just look at, say, for example, high blood pressure or high cholesterol, oftentimes that's a symptom of an underlying issue that's not being addressed, right? And oftentimes things like that get masked by certain medications, right? Where it's not necessarily looking at root cause. Our goal is root that out, get it fixed, and not have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's what we like to do. Figure out what's going on.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess let's jump in and talk about what cholesterol actually is, so people have an understanding of that, because there's this common misconception where people will come to me and they'll be like, I have cholesterol. And I'm like, oh, thank God. we need cholesterol. You're good, you're alive. So it's become this thing where people kind of have in their mind decided that it's a thing that you either have or you don't have, when it's actually something that we all need. It helps the brain to function. It's been proven that extremely low levels of cholesterol, like the lower you get below, I think it's like 150 or 180, the higher your rate of dementia and Alzheimer's is, so we need it for brain function. It helps to build our hormones. It helps with digestion. Like, it helps to, and this is one of the things that we'll really talk about today, it helps to kind of act like a Band-Aid in the circulatory system, and things like that. So we need cholesterol for our bodies to function. But too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. So there are times when cholesterol can kind of creep up, and that can become troublesome to some people. So we're just going to kind of dive into some of those reasons today, I guess. So
Do it.
let's do it. Yeah. So
So,
you go.
cholesterol is like everything in your body, right? Like
Yeah.
every
It's in
cell.
every single cell. It's part of the mitochondria. It makes your cells function, the way that they should. So we need it, it's part of everything. So a lot of people have like this cholesterol phobia where they're like, how low can I get it? I want to get it as low as possible. And that can be extremely detrimental to your health, because like I said, we need it for brain function. Like that's one of the first things that people will start to see kind of dissipate if that cholesterol gets too low.
Mm-hmm. I know, and you gotta have it. You gotta have it. Don't eat a pound of bacon, right? And then go get your blood work because you're probably gonna have some
Well, a
issues.
lot of things would go on with that, like your triglycerides would probably be a little high too. But Dietary cholesterol really accounts for very little of your total overall cholesterol. It's more about what your body is making. Cholesterol is made in the liver. And so a lot of times we have to go back to liver function when we're looking at historically high cholesterol. So if my cholesterol is always high, and not necessarily that total cholesterol, okay? So a healthy cholesterol reading prior to the development of statin drugs, which are drugs that are used to control cholesterol, a healthy cholesterol reading was considered to be 300. Once statin drugs were developed, then they dropped that to 200. So now everyone wants to be, you know, at or slightly below 200. So your dietary cholesterol doesn't really add to your, like, it's not going to put you over the edge, you know, but your overall diet, and if you're eating a ton of processed foods, a lot of sugar, a lot of really inflammatory fats and things like that, that's what's going to cause the issue, because that's going to all bog down the liver, and the cholesterol is made in the liver. The other issues could be, you know, sometimes there's a genetic component where some people just genetically make a little bit more of that LDL, which is kind of seen as the bad cholesterol. You know, and so there are different things that we can do to help naturally like tip that down a little bit. For some people, it's not that big of a deal because it doesn't skew their number that much. If you're at like 205, 210, something like that, like whatever, you know. But if you're at like 370, well, then that's going to be a little bit of a bigger issue that we need to address, because that's telling me that there's a ton of inflammation. I also want to know your other markers look like, you know, like your C-reactive protein, your triglycerides, things like that. C-reactive protein is in relation to inflammation. High cholesterol is also oftentimes seen as an indicator of inflammation. And then if your triglycerides are high, like there's too much fat in your blood, that is related back to eating fats that are super, super inflammatory, and a lot of processed fats and things like that, which also increases inflammation. So these things are all really tied together, but cholesterol is kind of the one where everyone's just like, you know, up in arms and freaking out about it because they think they're going to have a heart attack if their cholesterol is high, which could or could not be true. There were a lot of studies that showed that people were more likely to have a heart attack on a statin drug than without a statin drug. So, you know, there's that too, that a lot of people aren't told. Statin drugs were also tested in men, not women, before they were put on the market. And now we have all these women that are taking statin drugs and having a lot of side effects and a lot of issues and a lot more heart issues as a result. So there's kind of all these factors and these components that we need to look at. When Colton and I are working with clients, we're always chasing that why, you know, if the cholesterol is high, well, why? Like, your body doesn't just do something for no reason at all. It's like, oh, this is kind of a slow Tuesday, I think I'm going to raise the cholesterol, you know, like that's not a thing. So anytime the body is doing something undesirable, it's basically the body knocking on the door saying, hey, pay attention to this thing over here. I don't like this. We need to fix this, kind of thing. So reasons that cholesterol would be high outside of that, you know, slight genetic, you know, factor would be inflammation, liver stagnation. So if the liver just is really bogged down, because everything has to go through your liver, you know, makes a lot of your hormones into its active forms and things like that. And cholesterol plays a part in that hormone production. So if the liver is really sluggish and the hormones are really struggling, that cholesterol might come up. In terms of cardiovascular health, if there's a lot of inflammation within the arteries and things of that nature, then there can be like this thinning and kind of like weakening of those arteries. And so the body's like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a Band-Aid so that artery isn't as weak. And so it doesn't like pop and explode and then you have a major problem. Right. So
like patch.
Yeah, exactly. It's a patch basically to, you know, plug the potential hole, you know, just like if you had a hole in your air mattress, you'd put a patch on there. So the cholesterol will go in and increase, so that, because it's like this waxy, kind of substance. So it'll go in and patch those areas of the arteries that are weakened, or a potential, risk for your heart, for your cardiovascular system. And so it's doing its job to help to make sure that nothing happens within the circulatory system. Now, the downside of that is, arteries aren't gargantuan. They're pretty little, tiny little things. And so if we're patching and patching and patching and patching because the underlying issue isn't being addressed, then that opening within the artery is getting more and more narrow, which is probably going to send the blood pressure up, number one, because your heart has to work harder to like get the blood through that teeny tiny little hole because of all this patching that's going on. And then you can eventually create a blockage, which would obviously be a major issue, can cause a heart attack and things like that. So what statin drugs do is help to clear out the cholesterol out of the arteries so that the blood can flow more freely, which in theory sounds amazing. Yeah, duh, of course. Yeah, I want to do that. However, the reason that the cholesterol was patching those arteries is still there. So this is why we have such a major issue with the just, take away the Band-Aid, take away the patch theory, is because the reason the patch is there is still there. Now you're taking away the patch, so the artery wall is still thin, weak, inflamed, irritated, having some kind of issue. So why is the artery that way? That's what we need to address, not taking away the Band-Aid necessarily, So from a functional medicine standpoint, we're always going to that why. I have high cholesterol. My LDL is high, which is seen as the bad cholesterol, Why? What's going on there? Why do we have that? So then we would need to address the circulatory system, and look at like the C-reactive protein and your diet and other inflammatory markers, going back to like your omega-6 to 3 ratio. We've talked about that in previous videos and things like that before, where the average American's omega-6 to 3 ratio is 25 to 1 or higher, and it should be at 3 to 1 or lower. And there's a direct distinction between your omega-6 to 3 ratio being skewed and heart disease, heart attack, stroke, cardiovascular issues, like all of these issues. So oftentimes, if we can just get that into balance, then the cholesterol just naturally comes down on its own, because we're correcting inflammation, we're correcting that omega status, which is going to help to soften up that cell membrane. And remember, cholesterol helps to make and build that cell membrane, helps the cells to function, all of that good stuff. So if we're addressing all of these issues on like a cellular level and really getting to the root of it, then this whole big ball of yarn just kind of like unwinds itself, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Kind of. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's like, and sometimes like you go into the doctor, right? You get your yearly exam, right? You get your physical, you get some blood work, and you look at it and you're like, oh, holy cow, this is way out of range. I've never had health issues, other than, the common cold or flu or whatever. No. And then you look at it and the doctor's like, hey, Colton, we got to get you on the statin. You're like, of course, right? But you gotta, it's overwhelming, right? So this is why it's really important to understand this, right? And the difference between LDL, HDL, triglycerides, right? And what's causing that to be high, right? Because if you don't work on it, you just put a Band-Aid on it, right? What are the risks of that, right? Say you get on the statin, you don't do anything about the original issue. Like what are the downsides to that, the downfalls
of the statin?
Yeah, you get on
that. There's, if you read the insert, there's a lot of side effects: liver damage, kidney damage. Some people develop like these weird, almost like neuropathy type pains, and I've seen this quite a few times, more than I'm comfortable with. within my 16-year practice, where especially women, I think I've actually only had one man, and this goes back to the fact that statins were tested on men and not women. And women's and men's bodies are different, obviously. So where people will be on a statin drug, and it doesn't even have to be for very long. I've had a couple of clients where they were only on it for like a month or two, and they're like, yeah, now I have like this burning, tingling, like in my hands and my like forearms or my feet or my scalp. And it just like burns all the time. And the doctor said it was a reaction to the statin. They took me off of the statin, but this burning is still there. And they said that it may never go away. And that's, I feel like, something that needs to be disclosed to someone before they start taking a medication that's really passed out pretty willy-nilly. Like, oh, you just need to take this and you'll be fine. You know, so there's an issue, I feel, with informed consent, with these cholesterol drugs as well. So again, we're not telling you to stop taking your cholesterol drug. What we're asking you to do is really just kind of evaluate your health and look at, like, is there, you know, what are the potentials for reasons why my cholesterol is high, you know? And some people think that they've done the things that they can to address their diet and stuff like that, but everyone's needs are a little bit different. And the body doesn't have a statin drug deficiency. Like, it just doesn't. There's a reason why that cholesterol is high, and we just need to figure out exactly what that reason is. And if you've addressed your diet and nothing is, you know, really changing that much with your blood work, perhaps the issue is that your omegas are super out of balance, because 99% of Americans are out of balance. You know, so this would be like a foundational thing that we would look at, and we would go back to as a potential, or one of the key components to why the cholesterol is high. You know, just long term, the statins tend to cause a lot of issues, a lot of achiness, a lot of soreness, stiffness, pain. That burning thing is really alarming to me. And like I said, I've had more clients than I'm comfortable with come to me with that, you know, in my 16-year career. So that's kind of some of the big ones. And it can cause liver damage, depletes a lot of your B vitamins, which are needed for pretty much every single function of your body. Which is potentially why, you know, if the cholesterol gets too low, like one of the contributing factors to why it would kind of mess with your mental health and stuff like that, just because your body needs like folate and B6 and, you know, all these other B vitamins, B2 and whatnot, to like make that brain function work, make that nervous system work. And cholesterol helps to create healthy brains. So there's kind of all these different, you know, irons in the fire, contributing factors to cholesterol, and why, you know, different drugs would potentially have different side effects or cause certain issues because of their undesired effects that you really have no control over. And you don't really know, like, if you're going to have an undesired effect or not, you know, but it is going to deplete those B vitamins. I mean, that's just part of it, you know. Every drug is going to deplete something, and they tend to deplete B vitamins more than anything else, which is kind of scary because you need B vitamins for pretty much every single function, you know, within your body. It helps with nervous system function, your adrenals, your digestion depends on B vitamins, your energy level, your brain function, how you handle stress can relate to sleep, you know, all these different things. So we need those B vitamins. We don't want to drop them any lower than they already are for so many people.
Yeah, and that's why people are going and getting these IV.
Yeah.
It's just like everybody's depleted, right?
Yes.
So you have more gas to the fire, it's just going to burn it out quicker. But like, there's so many people on statins. I think back in 2019, the National Institute of Health for the US said 92 million statin users. It's freaking high. That's like a third of the US population, close to it.
Yeah, that's outstanding. That's insane. That's insane and scary.
I know. And then they said in 2013 it was 37 million users. So we went from like 10% to 30%.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a pretty big jump within 3 years.
6 years.
Six,
Uh,
you say 2013 to 2019?
yeah, yeah, 6 years. So
Six.
2020,
Oh, yeah.
2013, 2018, 2019. But like I think a lot of it probably comes down to, well, why is the cholesterol high? I think there's just a lot of inflammation in the body,
Yeah.
maybe people under stress, things like that.
Mhm.
Um, so what we kind of covered, some of the benefits, of what you need cholesterol for, right? We covered some of the standard treatments, right? Your
Mhm.
statins, stuff like that. But really, we want to look at, well, how do we help out with that, right? So we talked omega 3s, right? We need
Omega
those.
threes is really the biggest one.
Mhm,
And then figuring out like dietarily what your body needs,
mhm,
I think is super, super important. So food sensitivity tests, like what's driving your inflammation, basically, on top of that essential fatty acid panel. And then just really supporting the liver and working hard to get by supporting the liver and having a healthy diet, working really hard to get that HDL level above 65. Because the higher it is above 65, the more heart protection value we have. So we really want to get that number up. If your cholesterol is at 200, but 180 of that is LDL, well, that's a huge problem. It's a huge
yeah,
level of inflammation, a lot of liver congestion and issues and things like that. So we really want to make sure that that HDL gets up above 65. And we do that through diet, supporting the liver, getting your blood pumping once in a while by going out and, walking for 30 minutes, like just foundational things like living a healthy lifestyle, being active at least some of the time, and just kind of figuring out what works best for your body. There are a few different supplements, that I use to help people bring that LDL into balance. And that would all just be determined on, from a individual kind of standpoint. We would talk about that. If we do a micronutrient panel and we see like, hey, all your B vitamins are in the toilet, sometimes just getting those B vitamins up can
mhm.
can be a helpful thing, just because they do so much for the body, like we were talking about. So, but there's some other compounds and phytonutrients and herbs and stuff like that that we can use as well to help get that LDL down, especially if it's a genetic factor for some people. They need then a foundational supplement for them would be, taking that balance oil that I use in my practice and that you use as well. And then also, doing some kind of phytonutrient compound to get that LDL down. Because even if it's a genetic component, we can manipulate that gene. Epigenetics is a wonderful thing. So we can do some things to make it work. Basically, give it a crutch. Basically, that's how I describe it when we're
Yeah,
manipulating.
just kind of get the body right back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when we look at, so we got testing, right? Figure out kind of what's causing all this.
Yep.
Balance the body out. And then really kind of like what we do on the herbal side is boost up liver function, support the liver, the structure, the function.
Mm-hmm.
Some herbs that are in our brown formula that we use to support the liver they've actually been studied to show to reduce the cholesterol levels, and serum lipid levels. Um, so we really want to support the body's ability to just process the stuff out, kind
Yeah.
of give it a boost, right? And then with the other things, just kind of balance it out,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And that
Um,
brown is like one of my favorite liver support formulas ever. Like anytime anyone's like needing liver support for this, that, or the other thing, like that's my go-to is the brown, just because it works really, really well. And you can kind of feel it, like you just feel better in your body. That's probably the best way to explain it. It's just your body feels better overall.
yeah, and there's so many things that it's good for liver, right? It's kind of like a liver Swiss Army knife, right?
Yeah.
Take the inflammation down, boost function, just help support processing, support the immune system,
Mm-hmm.
detox, things like that. But then the other cool one we use in our cholesterol protocol is probably your other favorite product from us, the LC Balancer.
Yeah, that combination is fabulous. Yeah.
Right, because LC Balancer, it's good for getting blood flow up, inflammation down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Balance. Um, it also supports the kidneys, detoxification. But the main thing that makes it tick is it's a concentrate of reishi mushroom, which is a huge antioxidant. I think they actually studied it, and that helps to lower um, cholesterol and other things, right? But it's also supportive to the heart. There's American
Yeah, your
ginseng.
immune system, like, yeah, reishi is so good for so many things. There's a lot of studies on reishi.
There's just so much, and we could talk all day about like, oh, it does this, it does this, it does this. It's like,
Yeah.
again, I just call it a Swiss Army knife, right?
Mhm.
Blood flow, inflammation down, all that, right? And we could get into the weeds on that one, but um, there's another one we use for cholesterol, right? And this is our CV formula. It's cardiovascular, right? It's to help support, protect the cardiovascular system, the blood vessels, the arteries, um, the heart, bring blood flow to the heart, help get some inflammation down, help the heart just pump a little bit. Because when we're getting to the point of arterial blockages, plaquing, scarring, right, puts a lot of strain on the engine, right?
Mhm.
It's trying to pump it, it's not getting out, right? So helping to support the heart, restore some function, there's damage, help to just kind of repair that a little bit. But that's kind of like our 1, 2, 3 punch for cholesterol, right on our end.
Yeah.
Usually, you don't need to do these things forever, right? When they get people on statins, I mean, everybody I talk to, they're, oh yeah, I've been on it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's like there's no plan to get you off,
Yeah.
right? If you really look at it, is it helping, right? Is it actually helping the root cause?
Not at all. It's
Yeah,
not
be honest
at all.
you know, it's not food, right? You got to eat food forever, but our goal is get you on it, maybe 3 months, 6 months, depending on severity, right? Usually don't have people do it much longer than that for a full protocol and maybe some maintenance, right?
Mhm.
But levels in balance. Um, do you have any questions on that at all, or anything you want to dive a little bit deeper on?
I don't think I have any questions on that protocol.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward, I feel like. Yeah, and I think that's something that people want to know, like, oh, am I gonna have to take these herbs forever? No, not necessarily. If we figure out the underlying contributing factors and we address those lifestyle things, because these are all, so many of these issues that we're talking about are all things that we're doing to ourselves. They're lifestyle issues. And so if we address the lifestyle that's causing it, then you take the herbs for a period of time to get the situation under control quickly, and then you don't need the supplement anymore. Most supplements, like, there are some foundational things, just kind of depending on your own, genetic factors and health goals and things like that. But for the majority of supplements, they're supplemental. They're there for a period of time to correct an issue. And once that issue is corrected, then we don't need them anymore. So when we're working on a protocol, what we start out with isn't what we're going to do forever and a day. It's what we're going to do for right now. And then as the body changes and gets more into balance and closer to, homeostasis, then we start to take these things out because we don't need them anymore. And your lifestyle is a lot better. You're eating cleaner. You figured out what makes your body tick and all those things. So we don't need 100 supplements forever. So
No, it's like a biological training wheel.
yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Get it into balance, right? And run free, run
Yeah,
along.
then you're good.
Back to me, if you crash on something else, but
Exactly. Yeah.
that's the goal, right? Get you
That's the
help.
goal. Yeah, we have kind of a poor business model in that we fix people's issues and then they don't need us anymore. But we're always there just in case something else goes wonky.
yeah, you break an arm, call me. We got patches. We got
Yeah.
healed up broken arms, in a week or two, right? So
That's
like
insane.
anything, right? And
Yeah.
I just want people to know, like, we work with everything, and that's why we're doing these videos. Like,
Yeah.
you guys do stuff for cholesterol? No way, right? That
Yeah.
you're doing that, right? But
You don't know until you know, like what's out there, what's available, because unless this is your career path, like nobody's sitting around researching, the ins and outs of statin drugs and cholesterol and all of that stuff. So,
right, right.
yeah.
So yeah, no, I love doing this. I love seeing the actual changes and benefits in people's lives. Um, so we've covered how many things so far?
I think
Cholesterol.
we've I think we've covered the majority of it there. I think we've given people a good amount to chew on. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and if you guys have questions, concerns, comments, you want to consult with either of us or both of us, I'm going to put all of our contact information below this video. You can request free consultations with me at my website, which is just my name, erinthole.com. And you can call up Colton and chat his ear off if you want to. Colton, I almost have your phone number memorized. I probably do have it memorized, but do you want to spout it off just in case?
Been getting so many calls, I don't even want to give it out anymore. It's 612-808-9235, and I was just kidding. I love talking to people. Just putting the puzzle back together, right? It's
Yeah.
always interesting. But yeah, I'd be happy to help out. And then also, any questions, comments, whatever, post it below. We'll be checking this. If you guys, hey, what do you do for this, right?
Yep.
Just let us know.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Another informative video in the books. So thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers. Talk to you next time.